as you know, I started the legal practice series to kind of give aspiring solicitors some insight into what law is like in practice. And one kind of area of law that kept coming up was disputes. And so I thought, let me reach out to you and see if you'd be willing to talk to us. And you agreed. So thank you again.
No worries, babe.
I don't know if you want to start then by just introducing yourself to everyone. So obviously your name, and then just a brief overview of your legal journey to date. And then we'll go into everything in a bit more detail.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everybody. So my name's Wemi Moore on the Shoga. And I, like many people, had a dream to become, a solicitor. It's something I've always wanted to do. I feel like it came naturally in the sense of I've always been pretty academic and I've always enjoyed reading. Like, I'm a massive reader. So when it came to what do I want to do with my life, I kind of felt like I wanted to challenge myself and also do something that was something that would push me, do you know what I mean? And something that I'll be proud of. So it was always something in the back of my mind. So when it came to like A-levels and stuff, I pretty much tailored everything that I chose towards law, so I did like history and English literature, a lot of things that require kind of analysis and different perspective. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I kind of just decided, and I thought, you know what, I looked into the process of becoming a lawyer. Very early on, I realized that it was a long, tough journey, as you know.
Long.
Exactly. But I kind of just went with it. And from there, I was just like, yes, I'm going to roll with it. So how I got into dispute. So I work at a top 50 UK law firm. And it's funny, actually, because when I was at law school, I wasn't sure about what area of law I wanted to be in. I remember going through all the different electives thinking, like, I don't know which is best suited to me. And what I found was when I first sat and did my civil litigation C, I was like, wow, this is a bit of me. Like, I really understand this, and I'm getting this, and I was intrigued by it, and I was interested in it. The process of litigation, the process of solving a dispute through the court process, I found really intriguing. So I did my civil litigation C. Bear in mind, I had no experience no practical experience working in a law firm doing litigation, apart from like, a lot of people liken litigation to suits, because obviously suits is litigation, it's commercial litigation. So apart from, exactly. So apart from like watching Suits, I didn't really know what it was like in practice. So as I said, did the civil litigation seat at law school. For my elective, I chose advanced commercial litigation, which I absolutely loved. Like, who says they love law school? I enjoyed that in law school.
I enjoyed law school as well. I really did.
And that's
more than my undergrad.
I feel like I didn't. Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like, once you get to law school, that's when you realize, what, this is what it's all about, kind of thing. So I did advanced commercial lit, and I was like, oh my God, love this seat. Like, it's so dynamic. The applications you have to make to court, constantly trying to one up the other side, always needing a backup argument, always essentially trying to strong arm someone into doing what you want or what your client wants. And that really appealed to me. And then pretty much after that, I had various paralegal jobs in different areas of law. And then I was lucky enough to finally get a job as a litigation paralegal. So finally, I'm able to do it in real practice, in real time. And I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. And from there, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to be a litigator. And I feel like sometimes it might take you actually being in the practical world to actually know, and it's okay to be at law school and say, I'm not really sure. Sometimes it takes you to get into the actual practical practice to realize this is what I like and this is what I'm good at. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Amazing. And no, I 100% agree with what you said. Like, we study so much subjects at undergrad, and it's all very black letter law, very book, law. But once you get to law school, it's like, okay, you're learning subjects, but it's very practical. It's like, okay, if you're going to do litigation, you are on the job filling in these forms and doing these things. You can visualize yourself in law a lot better at law school than undergrad. So I completely agree. I completely agree.
100%.
Okay. Yeah, so okay, so let's go into some of those things and some other things in a bit more detail. And taking it a step back then, you did mention that you did some paralegal experience in different places before you did get your ultimate litigation role.
Yeah.
And I noticed, and we spoke about the fact that you worked for the Citizen Advice Bureau.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really interesting because whenever I do these lives, what keeps coming up is the fact that it's actually really hard these days to get legal work experience. Either firms are not offering it or people don't know where to look. And whenever we have these conversations, there's always people in the comments like, oh yes, CAB, so the Citizens Advice Bureau is somewhere you can go. So the fact that you worked there, I was like, okay, we need to talk about this. So if you don't mind, can you kind of break down to us what that experience was like and also how you even managed to get the experience?
Yes, so I had just started law school in 2017.
Yeah.
At this time, I hadn't had any legal experience whatsoever. I'd never paralegaled. I literally had never worked in a law firm. So like many people, I was thinking, right, I need to get some experience under my belt.
Mm-hmm.
I did law school part-time.
Okay.
And the reason why I did that was because I felt like I didn't have a training contract in place and I wanted to earn money and get experience to make me getting a training contract easier.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to apply for the Citizens Advice Bureau in South London. And it was an application, nothing too crazy. It wasn't, you know, it didn't take forever, but it was an application that I had to apply myself. And then I had an interview for that, which again was, it was okay. You know, a lot of the time I feel like the CAB, they're a government run business that are massively overworked and understaffed. So long as you can show a commitment to law and an interest in helping people, then I feel like you have a good shot. So I made my application, got through to the interview. The training was quite vigorous. It was about a week long, every single day of training, because they have their specific systems in place. And essentially what it is a bureau where people come for free advice. There are solicitors that work there for the more kind of complex legal issues. And I was hired as kind of the face-to-face receptionist. And I remember I was based at the Catford branch and I'd have to get there super early. And you'd get there and there'll be like a massive queue of people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it just throws you in at the deep end because people come to you and they're telling you everything that they're going through, you know. And again, the Citizens Advice Bureau, they deal with a big range of things. So they deal with debt, housing, landlord and tenant issues, employment, some criminal stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially you're stood there and someone's just telling you everything.
All their problems, and they want
All
you to kind
problems.
of either give them a solution or tell them who needs to give them a solution.
Yeah, and essentially it's really good for someone that's an aspiring solicitor because someone's telling you all this information, but your job is to weed out the facts of what you need to know so you can help them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So someone's kind of telling you all this information. I'm writing down all these notes,
Scribbling quick.
Scribbling, and then it's the next person. So before I can even digest or think about what that person told me, it's the next person in line. And, you know, a lot of people that, because it is a free advice bureau, it's essentially people that maybe can't afford legal representation. Yeah. So you get people from all walks of life. So it really does make you quite like robust in dealing with people. You know, we had a lot of kind of people that were just suffering, you know, people from impoverished neighborhoods and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they could get, you know, emotional or angry or, you know, kind of blame you almost because that you can't give them the solution they want straight away.
Right.
Sometimes you'll have to kind of spare them to somewhere else and say, this, we can't help you, this isn't what we do, etc. And then essentially once you've dealt with the reception side of things and you've got like 20 pages of notes of all these different clients and you have to make sure you take good notes, and all of this, now I look back, it really has helped me in my role today. Do you know what I mean? Being able to weed out the important information and also like apply it to what, so then I'll sit down with the solicitor and he'll just be like straight, what's this, what's that, what's this? And it's like, oh, I didn't ask that. Yeah, exactly. And then he wants to know kind of the pertinent facts to figure out if this is a case we can take on.
Right.
So it's really a fantastic opportunity. The hours are pretty flexible as well. So if you work full time. You could do it around your schedule. It is volunteer, so you don't get paid to do it. Yeah. But it is such an invaluable experience. I did it whilst I was at law school. So as I said, it was very client facing, and it's similar to the client meetings that I take today. Do you know what I mean? Being able to ask the right questions, also being able to listen as well. So you're not over asking questions. But yeah, it's really all about asking the right questions and also being able to deal with the level of emotion that you can get from somebody. Do you know what I mean? If someone's, you know, homeless or they've been thrown out, you know, and they come to the Citizens Advice Bureau, their electric has gone off, and you know they're disputing their electricity bill, and they haven't, you know, they haven't been able to shower, or they haven't been able to cook or stuff like that. This is what they're telling you, but in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, legally, you know, do you have a contract with this provider? Also, what are the terms of of your contract? Have you breached this? So again, it's just listening, but then allowing your mind to think legally in the way you was taught at law school. So yeah, never underestimate volunteer experience. It was the first ever legal experience that I got, and you know, the people are fantastic that you meet as well. You know, you get real camaraderie with the team, and yeah, no, it's really fantastic. I would say
amazing.
Yeah, like I would say if anybody is looking for legal work, it's definitely your first port of call. It's definitely your first port of call.
So when you said that you applied, I guess that means you applied on their website. So you just went on their website and saw what vacancies were available for which of the different locations.
Exactly. Simple as, and the application is online. You'll get a response, and then you have an interview, which is fairly informal. They really like people that have studied law at university. So if you've, and at that point I only had an undergrad law degree. So as long as you've got an undergrad law degree and you can show that in the future this is what you want to do, again, receptionist experience or client facing experience comes in key as well.
So that could even include retail, learning how to deal with people in retail. Retail 100%. Has a lot of transferable skills.
And that's the thing, like when I started with this, as I said, I didn't have any legal experience. I had some retail experience here and there. So I did rely on that as far as, you know, client facing, being able to solve problems. So yeah.
Perfect. And then you mentioned the training was a week-long training, and you said it was every day. So is that in the evenings? Did you have to, was it like a whole day, every day? What was that like?
So this was 2017, so
sorry.
It was, I know.
Trying to get out all the little details.
No, I remember it was very intense. It was, when I say intense, it was more time intense as opposed to kind of focus intense.
Okay,
So it was every single day. I think it was, I'd say, I don't know, 6-7 hours of the day. So at the time, obviously I wasn't working, I was in law school, so I was able to
dedicate that time.
Exactly. And essentially you're sat in a massive group with all the new cohort, and you go through each area of law that you'll be dealing with. So again, it's a massive education as well.
Okay.
Yeah, with the housing, employment, you do touch on areas of law as well.
Wow.
And then you know, you get this massive folder that you get to keep. And then after that week, they give you a timetable, you agree the timetable, and then you come in and you kind of walk into the doors, and it's really nerve-wracking. And as I said, you kind of walk in and everyone's eyes are on you, because it's like, this person's going to help me. I'm in so much trouble, I need help. So yeah, you just really have to be able to kind of have a control over yourself and not allow external issues or external things to affect how you deal with people. Of
course. And last question on this then for me. So you mentioned obviously that you had a receptionist role. Are there different roles within the Citizen Advice Bureau, or if you volunteer, you're automatically a receptionist, and obviously you have all of the different tasks that you mentioned?
So I think when you start, everyone starts as a receptionist. It's actually a receptionist. I'm sorry, I just had to double check my CV. So it's a receptionist slash, I know it was a while ago, right? Yeah. Slash knowledge assistant.
Okay.
So what it is, as I said, you face them and you kind of take all the information. You can't actually give any legal advice. You're not allowed to.
Of course.
But really, it's more like a fact-finding mission where you just ask like loads of questions, get as many responses as you can. You then feed it back to the lawyer. So when you first go in, you will start as a knowledge assistant. Some people that tend to, and I think I did it for about 9 months and then I stopped. But some people stay on and then you can kind of rise in the ranks. And then there are, I can't remember off the top of my head what the other roles are, but there are managers in there. There are obviously qualified solicitors in there as well, and they get to do more case heavy stuff. They have advocates as well. So sometimes if you meet the criteria and you need representation at court, you can get an advocate there as well. So, and they train you to be an advocate as well. So there's certainly various roles, you know, but again, it comes with time. So, but for me, I just needed something on my CV, and I felt like by the time I'd left, I'd kind of got and I actually only did it up until I got my first paralegal job. So for me, as soon as I got that paralegal job, I felt like, yeah, it's time to move on.
Okay, sure. Okay, well, that was a great overview. So what was in mind when you decided to look for a training contract? What is it that you wanted out of a firm?
So once I finished at the Citizens Advice Bureau, I actually worked at two other firms in other areas of law before I got my litigation paralegal role. So I first paralegaled in wills and probate and estates. I then did court of protection, and it was only then that I finally got litigation. So once I got that litigation seat, I just knew that in a training contract, that's what I wanted to do. And I think depending on the type of firm that you apply for, you might not necessarily have that leeway to decide. So when I looked at my training contract, I found that the one that I was offered was litigation heavy. So a lot of my seats were around litigious areas of law. So that was a big draw to me, because I knew that I didn't want to do, you know, family or immigration or corporate mergers and acquisitions. Even though I'd done that at law school, I knew that that's not really what suited me. And I remember I actually had an interesting conversation with one of my good friends, and I remember saying, look, I don't really know what area of law is. And she's a lawyer, well, she's training at the moment, she's a trainee now, she'll qualify soon. And I just remember saying to her, like, I don't know, like, which area of law is for me. Like, none of it's making sense. And she literally was like, no, you need to be a litigator. That's just what you are.
It is what you are, to be honest. So for those who don't know, Rima and we went to school together and uni together. So we've been on this journey together. Exactly. She is a litigator.
And that's the thing, Nadine, like, I feel like you should kind of just go with what comes naturally to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like instead of, you know, people pick, you know, where they train or what they do for various reasons. But I think with me, I wouldn't say I'm a contentious person or an argumentative person, but I feel like I have...
You like your facts.
Yeah, and I have an inquisitive mind. I question everything. I never take anything for face value. So it was very easy for me to do litigation, because you're presented with you know, a set of facts from the other side, say, and it's like I'm already underlining and questioning it, and I need you to evidence absolutely everything you're saying, you know. So it made a lot of sense for me to do litigation, because of the fact that I question things a lot and I don't take things for face value, and I'm always thinking about a rebuttal. I don't know if that makes me argumentative, but hey, it works.
No, it makes you perfect for the role, okay?
Exactly. That's a good way of saying it. So again, just following my natural, God-given, born skill set helped me kind of navigate what kind of training I wanted to do and in what area of law.
Perfect. And obviously you mentioned that you went for the training contract that you went for because of its strong litigation focus. Did you also have in mind you're always going to train at a high street firm, or again, is that just kind of how it worked out?
So I feel like I aimed for Magic Circle Silver, and obviously congratulations to you, babes. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
We've
got
been
there
on
in
this
the
journey
end.
together, babe, and I'm just so happy and amazed that you've got your training at Linklaters. What a fantastic firm, honestly. What a way to start your career. But so originally the thing is, I'll be honest, like, when it came to making those applications, I wasn't very consistent. I just wasn't very consistent with it, you know. So maybe if I push myself, you just never know. But in my mind, I always wanted you know, Magic Circle, Silver Circle, top 20, top 50 firm. And, you know, once I'd finished law school and I'd done my various, and again, I'd paralegaled at regional firms, at national firms. I had a VAC scheme at a top 20 firm as well. So I had tried it. Do you get what I mean? But I never got there. So it got to the point where I was like, look, I just want to qualify now. I just don't care. I was like, I just want to qualify. And yeah, so for me, it got to the point of, it didn't really matter where I trained, as long as I got a good training contract and it allowed me to go to the city, go to those firms later on down the line. You know, I always had in my mind, I'll make it back there. Yeah. But at this point, I just want to become a qualified solicitor, you know. So after not being so consistent and then making applications here and there that weren't successful, you know, I applied to a high street firm, and it was a caveat. They wanted me to paralegal for 6 months before, so it was almost like a 6-month probation period. Yeah. So I thought, okay, you know, at least I'm paralegaling anyway. So I took the job as a paralegal. Okay. And you know, the first 6 months was, you know, they scrutinized me massively in the way I worked, etc. And then luckily, well, by God's grace, really, they offered me the training contract. So at that point, I was just like, oh my God, like I'm a trainee finally. And, you know, people shouldn't necessarily write off regional, national, high street firms, because
Agreed.
They really shouldn't, because my training contract was the most pressure and the most stress that I've ever been under in my life. A lot of my clients were massive companies, corporations. You know, I dealt with multi-track, fast-track cases worth thousands of pounds. And, you know, so the quality of work might not necessarily be so different to those Magic Circle, Silver Circle firms. At the end of the day, litigation, the process is the same no matter where you practice it. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. You know, it's just maybe the manner in which they do it is probably very different. Yeah. So yeah, I think the great thing was really being able to get some hands-on experience, take my own client meetings, have files in my own name. You know, working in these high street firms, because they're smaller, but you still have a massive amount of work. Agreed. Do you know what I mean?
I think even you could even get more hands-on work than trainees in bigger firms, because in bigger firms you may take on more of a support role, whereas when you're in a high street firm, like, you're part of the only people in the team that need to get it done. So you take on whatever needs to get done.
Like, I remember, like, I did client meetings on my own as a trainee. I was up and down in court, Clerkenwell, Shoreditch Court. I was always at that court. I was always at Bromley Magistrates Court. Like, I was constantly in court, and I was constantly briefing counsel. Like, and, you know, I learned so much. I had real hands-on experience. I was first port of call for clients. So I was able to learn very easily how to deal with very difficult clients. And sometimes at bigger firms, you might not ever speak to the client. You might never even email them or speak to them on the phone. Whereas at a high street firm, they're calling me because I'm the case handler, I'm the fee earner, you know. So it was a massive amount of experience, and because it is smaller, the pressure and the spotlight is on you more in the eyes of the partners, because you know, they're questioning you, they're wanting to know what's happening on this case, and etc. So yeah, it was definitely a massive learning curve, and I actually wouldn't have changed it at all. It really has helped me to get
that we've spoken about that in such big depth, because I feel like a lot of people give up on law when they receive rejections from these top firms, and they feel like, okay, well, if they don't want me, maybe I'm not meant to be a lawyer. But really and truly, you could have excelled in, like you said, a regional, a national, or high street firm, gained so much experience that would make you 10 times better than you would have been once you do get to those firms, if you decide that's what you want to do later on. So it's really true. Like, the experience you get, the hands-on experience you get at smaller firms is so true. I worked in-house for 2 years, and because at the time there's only 4 of us in the legal team, I did everything. like when the team is like that, you have to step up and get the work done.
100%.
However qualified, unqualified you are, you have to get it done. So
yeah, 100. And, you know, when I think back, it's like, yeah, I had so many experiences. Like one of the seats that I did was contentious probate. So essentially when someone would die and leave an estate, and say that person has died and left a massive debt. So but my client at that point would have been the local authority, and someone could have died and left adult social care debts, and straight away the local authority are in there wanting to seize the assets to recover the debt that was owed as a result of that adult social care that went unpaid. So a lot of the time I had to go to these properties where people had like literally died in, and I've had to instruct clearance companies. I've had to arrange the auction of the house. I've had to do everything. I remember when I had to go to the court to hand up a consent order, because basically on a matter where we'd settled very late in the day, the final hearing was coming up. And Rachel, my partner at the time, was like, no, you're going to have to go to court to hand up the consent order. I was like, I'm sure I could just send this by email. She was like, no, you just have to go there because it's too late. Essentially, say the hearing was like 9 a.m. and we'd settled it at like 8 p.m. the night before. And she was like, there's a real risk that the clerks will overlook that consent order if we sent it by email. So she sent me to Clerkenwell Shoreditch. I've now had to go in front, and the other side has like, I don't even know, like solicitors, and then there's just little old me, a trainee, and I'm there having to, you know, make my representations to the judge. And I just remember like being really nervous, putting my head down, and the judge just goes, "Speak up, counsel," and he just shouted at me. I was like, oh my God. Like,
I'm not even counsel yet.
I know, I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry. And then I had to hand up the consent order, explain the terms of the order and how we settled. And, you know, I feel like the judge had a bit of a laugh at me because he could tell I was junior, obviously. And, you know, he started asking me all these questions that were just so irrelevant and just so not, you know, he was just probing me about the case. I'm like, look, we've settled it. It's not really for the court's jurisdiction anymore if the parties have settled. So, yeah, honestly, people, please don't think, oh, if I'm at a high street firm that's where I'll be forever, or that I won't get a good amount of training. Like, you can get so much invaluable experience at high street firms, and I feel like that really propelled me into my career today and helped me so much, to the point where now, like, you know, I've been at my firm under a year, and thank God I'm doing really well there. And now the partner that I'm under, she's now delegated some of the legal assistance and the paralegal work to me. So some of the legal assistants and the paralegals, I have to like check their drafting, check their work before it goes out. And I feel like the only reason I'm in a position to check anyone's work is because of the close scrutiny and the work that I've had previously. That's kind of equipped me to be able to have the attention to detail because I had to apply it in the past, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And on that note, congratulations for moving on up. I wouldn't say something up, but moving to the type of firm that you always knew you'd be at. How was that transition, moving from high street into a city firm?
Yeah, it was it was definitely a steep, very steep upward learning curve for sure. Like, just looking at the resources that we use, again, the type of cases, you know, it was a lot to get used to. I'm not going to pretend, but it's not impossible. It's definitely doable. It's just something that takes time. And again, you just have to apply yourself. You know, I have so much more hands-on support actually in my firm now than I did in my training, you know, and there's so much more kind of resources, legal research engines, and just better, more whole resources that make your job easier. Whereas in high street firms, they may be a little bit backwards and maybe not have access to those type of resources. So whilst it was a journey to kind of get used to everything, in the long term it's made my job as a whole easier, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. And obviously you qualified into disputes and investigations. What does a typical day or a typical week as a disputes lawyer look like? Like, obviously you've spoken about the type of work you did as a trainee. Is it very similar to that, or is it even broader than that? What does your week look like?
So, so I have a massive caseload. I'm not even going to pretend.
Hey.
I have a huge caseload, and what does the day look like? I'll start my day. I'll check. I would have had a list actually from what I've got to do from the day before. So
Trust me,
I'm going to go
list,
back.
lifesaver.
Yes, yeah, lists, case trackers, whatever you want to call them, schedules. I'll obviously check my emails as first things first on urgent cases. The thing is with litigation and disputes and investigations, essentially we're guided by the court process. So everything we do, whilst you'll still engage with the CPR applications and whatnot, everything you do is kind of is what the court says. So when the court issues the order, that's when you act. When the court issues notice of transfer, you've moved to another court. If it's the notice of final hearing, you have so many directions you need to comply with. So you just have to read. I have to be so on top with what the court is doing, so I know how to proceed in my cases. So yeah, a typical day would be obviously checking my post, that's one of the first things, checking your post, and also reading the directions of the court with close scrutiny as well. Make sure you don't miss a direction, because it's catastrophic if you miss a direction. If the judge has said, right, in 14 days before the hearing, we want standard disclosure, we want schedules, we want witness statements, we want full pleadings, that means that you've got to do it, because if you don't do it, your client's claim can get struck out. And if your client's claim gets struck out, then you're in big trouble. That's just it. And then your firm then has to pay the client the money that they could have got had the matter gone to trial, plus interest and costs. So it's really important to look at your posts, look at your emails, have for me to be able to have an idea of what my day looks like, and I'm really guided by sense of urgency, what needs to be done, what next, but a lot of my days is I'm on the phone a lot. Sometimes when I'm dealing with the other side, whether it's the claimant or defendant, depending on what side my client's on, I'm either doing mediation, I do a lot of mediation, or entering kind of without prejudice discussions over the phone. That could take your whole afternoon. Drafting, we do a lot of drafting, so correspondence. I draft a lot of defenses, witness statements, emails, it's just constant really. And with each case is very different, and each case requires a different tactic depending on what's been said. So you just kind of have to take your time, immerse yourself in the case that you're dealing with, have a lot of scrutiny of the documents and what's happened, obviously engaging with your client as well, letting them know where you are in proceedings, what's happening, and just kind of just rolling with it, and just making sure that you're acting in the best interests of your client, which is one of our our code of conduct, is to act in the best interests of your clients, and making sure you're doing that on all your cases, and just staying on top of things. You have to be so organized. And I know I'm saying this and it might sound all very heavy, but I'm telling you now, the more you do it, the better you get. You
get into a routine of what needs to be done and when. And obviously when you get those notices from the court, you already know, okay, I've got that notice in, I've got that amount of time, these are the things that need to get done. Like, it becomes very
100%. So as an example, today I have a matter that's the final hearing is in April. Towards the end of April. It's towards the end of April, so I had to draft the client's witness statement. So the statement is currently around 16 pages. I didn't actually finish it today because I'm going to start fresh tomorrow. But I started drafting it. I got up to like the 16th page, and whilst doing that, I'm having to collate all the exhibits that we're going to rely on in court also. And because I'm drafting it, but it's in the witness statement is in the name of my client, so I've also got to create a whole nother bundle so that my client can see where I'm getting all this information from, because the client hasn't gone through all these documents. They haven't analyzed the case in any way. So I've now had to draft a whole nother bundle showing the client where to look for the information that I found from the documents they've given me that they've never read, if that makes sense. So I'm going to finish that tomorrow. and send that to the client. And then also I'm going to have to do a brief to counsel, which again is going to be a long document instructing counsel of our representations, the areas of laws that we're requiring, that we're relying on. And I think that's pretty much it.
It sounds like it's a lot.
Today.
It really sounds like it's a lot. Like, as a disputes lawyer, you deal with so many different things and tasks in aid of one case.
Yeah.
What does support look like? Because I'm not understanding.
So I have a secretary, and she is the most amazing, most beautiful lady. Honestly, like, she is phenomenal. Like, so essentially when I get my notices from the court, she'll diarize in my diary when the witness statement needs to be sent, when you need to brief counsel. So that does help a lot. But again, I think because of my training, I still am a bit pedantic, so I'll still double check that she's put it in my diary correctly. Do you know what I mean? So as much as the support is there, if anything goes wrong on that case, and now that I'm qualified, it falls on me. So I can't rely on her too much, although I do. And she's never actually made a mistake. I shouldn't really double check what she's doing, but I do. You know, so for instance, when we've had, so a lot of my clients are major banks in the UK, many banks that people bank with. And recently I've had a case where an individual actually has issued a massive claim against one of the banks, right? It was a very unexpected case and it fell into my lap. And you know, straight away, I've had to file an acknowledgement of service. That's to say, right, we acknowledge the claim. We need 14 days to compile our defence. Fine. So I've done that. But thank God for my secretary who's put in when you need to send that acknowledgement of service, when your defence needs to be filed, when you're, and not only when it needs to be filed and served, but actually when you need to draft it, when you need to get your client to make sure it's okay before you can then file it in court and serve it on the other party. So I know it all sounds very crazy, but honestly, once you get into the flow, and as I said, litigation and disputes, it's very much driven by the court process and the timing. So it's like once you learn the time limits and the civil procedure rules, then you just can't, you know, if the claim gets issued, you need to respond in 14 days, simple as. You respond with an acknowledgement of service, that gives you an extra 28 days. See, 21, 28 days. 28 days. And then then you have then you've got to do your defense within those 28 days. So, you know, once you've done that, then you get a bit of breathing room. But yeah, thank God for my secretary. She's phenomenal. And then we also have a massive support team. So when I come to doing my bundles for the court, the support team, I just send them the documents, they collate it, they paginate it, you know, they prepare it. We've actually recently been introduced, my firm or my department have typists now. So I actually just got a dictaphone the other day whereby I can dictate letters, but I tried it and there's actually a whole manual on how to dictate. You know, it's crazy. Like, you have to literally be like, dear sirs, comma, next line, I write further to your email below. Period. And it's like, oh my God, like I could have written this whole email by now, you know. So I haven't got into the dictation, but again, it's very, very good support. But yeah, I'm kind of stuck in my ways. But I think, you know, when it comes to maybe applications and things, maybe you can just spur it off your head. But then, you know, I remember when I did dictate one letter, I felt so bad for the typist because it was just full of and hold on, oh no, sorry, scrap that. No, you know, it wasn't fair for her having to listen to this, try and type it, make it make sense. So yeah, a lot of support. You know, once you're qualified, they realize the immense amount of pressure you're under, the sheer caseload as well. So in order to assist you to do your best job, a lot of these firms, you know, your firm, I'm sure they'll smash it as far as giving you the support that you need. You know, it makes things flow a bit easier.
No, absolutely. And you covered that in so much detail, and there was so much that you covered that I wasn't even aware of. I think I did disputes as well last summer for about 4 months, and why are you laughing?
Because I just saw your face. You're like,
No, do you know what it is? It's like, it was a lot more. Disputes obviously is a contentious area of law, but it is more transactional than I thought, because like you said, you have the court procedure, so there are deadlines and things that you have to do and when it needs to be done by and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think contentious is for me, but I'm glad it's for you.
And the thing is, I feel like, oh yeah, it's contentious.
Yeah.
It is. You're gonna get an email from the other side totally ripping apart your case. They can be personal sometimes. Some of them, I've had conversations where the other side have slammed the phone down on me. And this reminds me, I remember when I was at law school and I was doing, no, it was when I was doing the professional skills course, right? And I remember one of the professional skills teachers was like, oh, I don't know what's wrong with litigators. They're so highly strung and agitated and always angry. And I kind of laughed and thought, what does she mean? And it's like, now that I'm doing it, I really understand why we are the way we are. Like, you know, you're constant. It's like, imagine running through a field and there's constant bullets being shot at you constantly. Like, your people are constantly trying to rip down your client's case, poke holes. You're getting, once you think your case is going one way, everything's going fantastic, you get an application smack bang from the court, seeking this, seeking that. Now I have to do another 10 hours of something. So it really is contentious. Like, people are literally arguing. You know, you're constantly trying to figure, how am I going to strong arm this other party into settling this case? Or how am I going to push them into submission to accept liability? You know, you really have to, you've got to, you know, you've got to be strong with it. You know,
but you
really
enjoy it though, right?
I love it. I'll bring it on. I love it. And again, it's just not taking things personally. Like, I had a recent call from the other side, and essentially his client brought the claim against the bank that I act for in this matter. And they essentially, very early on in proceedings, they wanted us to disclose certain things. And a lot of the time in litigation, it's all about tactics as well. It's like, I can disclose it, but I'm not going to do that right now because I don't have to, right? Mm-hmm. So I had said, well, actually, I pushed back and said, no, the bank isn't happy to disclose that as of yet. But in order for us to do that, we would want to understand a breakdown of your claim. Like, you've got this number, and this was over the phone, by the way. And I've said, you've issued this claim. Where's this number come from? On what basis is your client pleading this? You know, at the end of the day, you can't issue a claim in court and not expect the other side to understand or want a basis for where this figure's come from. That's crazy. That's baseless. So we went back and forth. The guy was quite rude, and he slammed the phone down on me, right? And again, it's like, you know, if I wasn't necessarily having the best day, maybe I would have taken it personal. But, you know, you just have to realize, you know, I'm acting on behalf of my client. Like, you know, there's nothing I can do here. You know, you just can't take things personally. I think, especially in contentious areas of law, like, it's always going to be contentious. It's built that way. You know, people are fighting for, you know, to avoid getting a judgment against them. So, you know, you just can't take things personally like that.
Emotions are high. Okay, so final question from me, and then we'll see if we can answer some of the questions in the chat. And that is, what advice would you give to aspiring solicitors about anything that we've spoken about so far, or anything else that you think we haven't covered?
So I would say, first of all, just to believe in yourself. You know, throughout the process of becoming a solicitor, there's going to be knockbacks, there's going to be setbacks. As in life, nothing worth having comes easy. So you have to have an innate belief in your ability that you can do this. You've got this far. There's a reason you've got this far, and you really just have to believe in yourself, have faith in yourself. I'd also say, you know, the usual, you have to work hard, you have to be focused, you have to be consistent. You know, that goes without saying. I would also say to have outlets as well, because for anyone that's on the path of becoming a solicitor, it is very stressful. It's quite long-winded, and I feel like it's always good to have like a creative outlet, or to do something that you enjoy, or find something. So it's like similar with you with Legally Diverse. What a fantastic way to kind of take your legal hat off halfway and actually engage with people. It's so, you know, and that's maybe a mistake that I made. I was so focused on qualifying that I put my other passions and interests to a side. And it's only now that I'm qualified that I'm getting back to a lot of my personal interests and my hobbies. And I'm so, so happy. It's really fulfilling me. So I think whilst you should be focused and determined to qualify, have other hobbies, have other goals, have other interests, because you'll find that they can also help you in your career as well, and help you get to where you're going some way, somehow. And also, if you can find a mentor as well, you know, I have a good circle of friends. I can see some of them in the chat. Like, we all went to uni together. They're all lawyers themselves. So keeping close with circles of friends to motivate you and to keep you on track. You know, I have a fantastic mentor. When I was paralegaling, he was a trainee at a firm, at the same firm, and I'm still in contact with him today. So having someone that I can look up to, that can say, you know what, you've got this. And yeah, just believe in yourself. Like, you can do it. You know, it's hard. It's a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of lonely time when you're kind of in the library learning, as you know, like law school, and going up and down with your heavy rucksack, breaking your back. But honestly, now that when you get, I'm telling you, it's worth it. You know, it's really worth the struggle. You know, now that I'm in a position where I'm qualified, I'm so, so grateful, so, so thankful for my job. I love my job. I enjoy it. It's so rewarding. It fulfills me, you know, and I'm able to give back to my parents, to my family, to everyone that helped me. So I definitely think you just got to keep your head down, stay focused, stay consistent, remember why you started, and just don't give up on yourself. And, you know, during my training contract, I cried a lot. I did cry a lot because it was hard. Like, I would call my dad and break down, like, what is this? And he would just say, no, you've got your nanny there, your nanny there. So, you know, keep having a strong sense of self, and knowing, you know what, you know, you might draft something and then you've got red crossed all through it, wrong. Don't take it personally. Yeah. Look at it as an opportunity to learn and grow. And yeah, I think another thing that I would say, and I don't know, depending on people's firms, I don't know if you're allowed to do this, it depends, but keeping a dossier of the work you've done, obviously redacted for commercial sensitivity. But, you know, if you draft some, you know, pleadings or consent orders or whatever, like, if you keep a little dossier, it's always good to be able to reflect on what you've done. And then when you go to a new job, you can say, oh, you know, you have something to refer to if you do that type of work again. So, yeah.
Great advice. And I think, aside from definitely believing in yourself, the whole thing you spoke about in terms of the connections is so, so important. And connections, both in terms of just the personal connections you have and people you have around you. Your support system is so, 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 so important. I could not stress it enough. Mm-hmm. Law can be a painful journey, and having people around you that, one, like you said, you can cry to, you can speak to, but then will also encourage you when you're ready to back down, is so important. Like, I cannot name... Okay, good. I'm like, let me just fact check before I say this. I cannot name one person in my circle that turned around to me and said, Nadine, I think you're not ready for law, or I don't think you can do law. I didn't have one. And I think that was a major factor when it came to being able to keep going despite the rejections that I faced, because having people that believe in you when you don't believe in yourself is so important. And then secondly, the connections you said in terms of like mentors and stuff. All of the mentors that I have, bar one, are mentors that I actively went out and got. Like, sometimes, and often it's the case that you don't know anyone that's a lawyer, or you don't know anyone in the legal field. So sometimes you have to really put yourself out there. So whether it's going on LinkedIn and seeing someone that you're really inspired by, either because the firm they're at, or their background, or the area in which they practice in, reach out to them. People are more willing to talk to you than you think. And then at these law events, network with people. I met, and I'm not going to name his name because I nearly named it in my YouTube video, and I thought, I don't want anyone flooding him on LinkedIn, but I met someone at a law event, and off the back of networking with him, I got experience in media and entertainment law, in employment law, in human rights. I worked on the Grenfell disaster. Like, you can make a connection with someone and they can completely change your legal course. So please be intentional with the connections that you make and the people that you have around you.
Definitely. You said that perfectly. I can't add anything else. You said it absolutely perfectly.
Sorry, I had to add. Okay, perfect. So we do have a couple of questions. So I'm just going to look at them and see which ones we maybe haven't covered yet. Oh, great question. What do you do to wind down after a contentious day? That's a good one to start off at.
That's such a good one. So
yeah.
It's such a, and it's needed. It's so needed. Like, you know, that was a problem that I had throughout my training contract, actually, where I'd have a very intense, stressful day, and then I'd go home and my shoulders are still up to my ears. Like, I'm still like immersed in what I did, and you know, I could put a program on and I wouldn't really find a way to calm myself down and get back to life, because you know, there is a life outside of the office, there is a life outside of law. I believe that everyone is born with so many gifts and talents, so don't ever feel like you're just made to do one thing and be a lawyer. There's so many other things that you can give. But what I did, I'm a spa person. I love the spa. So after a heavy day, I'd probably go to the gym. I actually just went to the gym before I started with you, as I said. I'd sit in this, the steam room for about half an hour. I'd put a face mask on. I'll then go into the sauna. I'll then go into the jacuzzi. I'd then have a hot shower. I'd literally spend 2 hours in the steam room and sauna, maybe 4 times a week if I wasn't working late, maybe more. And when you're in that, especially when you work out as well, because you're constantly focusing on the working out, your brain, you can't even think about the case, you can't even think about your day. So for me, being able to like work out, self-care and well-being, whether it's steam room, sauna, those type of spa related activities, even if it's just going for a run or a bike ride, you just need to kind of get out of yourself. Do you get what I mean? So for me, that really gives me a lot of joy and peace when I have a really hard day. Yeah, but obviously, and that's what I was saying earlier, like the importance of having hobbies, because you know, if you've had a really, really hard day, it can really knock you. It really can, especially if you make a bad mistake as well. It can really knock you. Touch wood, I haven't made any mistake as a qualified solicitor. When I was a trainee, I made plenty of mistakes. But when and it matters when you're qualified. It matters. Like,
so wait, just random follow-up questions. So how did you deal with it when we had COVID and everything was closed?
Oh my God. Oh.
Sorry.
Oh my God, that was, yeah, it was bad. It was bad because then, you know, I finished my training contract during COVID. So, and I was lucky because the first year of my training, there was no COVID. So as I said, I was out in court a lot. I had a lot of client facing stuff. Whereas it was towards my second year that I was in COVID. So yeah, no, I don't think I dealt with it very well, to be honest with you. I just got on with the work, and I think I was just, yeah, I was just emotional a lot.
Oh.
That's just the God's honest truth.
Yeah.
But yeah, and if I'd, you know, if things weren't on a lockdown, I definitely would have felt better and been able to deal with the stresses of training if I had my usual outlet, which is, you know, working out or whatever.
Sure. Okay, next question we have is, do you need to know the law for all areas to do litigation? I'm assuming you need to know the law for all areas.
Yeah, that's such a really good question, actually. And yeah, kind of like, yeah, you do. And that's the thing about litigation. The process is litigation. The process is running from, you know, issuing a claim to the final hearing, but depending on what that case is about, you are going to rely on the specific law within that case. Do you get what I'm saying? So you do need to be able to know, you know, what law you're relying on. So I've recently been doing my first money laundering case for the bank. I've never done money laundering a day in my life. The only money laundering I've done is all that training that you have to do. So I have to now revisit the provisions and the money laundering regulations. So, you know, once you get a case and you read the facts, it becomes relatively clear what the other side is pleading, so that it should direct you in what area. But yeah, you kind of do have to know it. You do have to know it. But then these are the skills that you pick up at law school. You know, that legal research module, it comes in handy, you know, and being able to you know. And again, I was a big fan of Lexis Library, not so much LexisNexis, but Lexis Library, because it's so good at analyzing law and practical law as well, just putting law in a very easily understandable way. So yeah, you know, that's the money laundering case. Then I have a PPI case that I'm working on, so I have to know about the Consumer Credit Act. So yeah, but again, it's interesting, you know, and you have to challenge yourself and you have to push yourself. As you know, who wants to just do one area of law the whole time? You know, you want to be able to try different areas and be able to apply them to the case. Yeah.
But it isn't the case. Is it the case where you have to actually know the law, or is it a case where you need to know where to find the law and then apply it? Because my kind of understanding of the question may have also been like, do you have to know off by heart, or do you have to like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no. So if you're a barrister, you probably do have to know off by heart. So if you're going down the barrister route, then you need to be able to spur off these areas of law off the top of your head. But obviously, as a solicitor, we're given the time in case prep and throughout the litigation process to understand. So yeah, you have to know the law. You need to know where to find it. Yeah. And you have to read it. You have to read it. You have to figure it out. Like, you have to literally read each section, and then it's like a aha moment. Like, yes, that's the provision. That's the exact provision that we want to rely on. Do you know what I mean? So, okay, as an example, I have a case at the moment, and essentially I made representations at a hearing that we had, which said that, you know, the other side had bought the claim in the name of one party, whereas the agreement they were seeking to rely on was in the name of two people. So say it's an insurance agreement and it's in Mr. and Mrs. The claimants had only bought the claim in the name of Mr. So when I was looking at the Consumer Credit Act, I found that in order for the claimants to rely on this insurance, or to rely on the law, they had to bring the claim in the name of both parties, because then it will prejudice. If they just bought it in the name of Mr., it's going to prejudice Mrs. position, who they've not bought it in the name of. So I was like, yes, found that, smashed it. So I put that in my representation. We had a dispute resolution hearing, and the judge instantly struck out the case on that basis. So, and my client is super happy because we haven't even got to a final hearing. Do you get what I mean? So again, you just have to, you have to give yourself the time to read the law and find what you're looking for. You know, some cases you'll get will be similar, and that's why it's good to kind of take notes as well on the different areas of law you work on, because after a while you kind of get into this mode of, oh, I've done that before, that's similar to that case, and then you can apply it. So I hope that example that I said made sense.
Yeah. No, it definitely did. It definitely did. I know we've definitely gone over Meme. Are you okay to do one more question?
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, certainly.
Okay, we have a question. Would you recommend pursuing a paralegal role or going, I guess, straight through to the TC route after uni? I think that's a great question.
I think that's a great question. And I feel like it's only kind of, this is just my perception, I feel like it's a smaller minority of people that are lucky enough to kind of get a training contract during law school and get the firm to pay for your law school fees. You know, as you know, law school is not cheap, it's very expensive. So I feel like there are only a certain amount of people that get that privilege, which is fantastic, and you should be so proud of yourself. I feel like if you don't get, obviously try, of course, why not? If you want a massive firm to pay for your fees, that's like a win-win. Yeah. But if you can't get it, I feel like there's so much positive things to be gained from working as a paralegal. You know, you learn not just law, but the business of law, which people really underestimate. The need to time record properly, the need to bill your client properly, whether VAT is chargeable on counsel's invoice, like all these things, they matter. And if you don't do them right, they're mistakes, you know? So I feel like working as a paralegal really gives you an understanding of how a firm runs. And once you know how a firm runs, like, that's half the job. That's half the job, because remember, these law firms are businesses. They're trying to make money. Yeah. So as much as, yes, people are focused on the technical side of law and being able to be a good lawyer, like, you need to understand the business of law. And I feel like being a paralegal really opens you up to stuff like that. You know, a lot of the time you'll be given like a billing target, for an example. Every month you need to bring in a certain amount of money. You know, you'll have a time recording target. Every day you need to bill a certain amount of billable hours. Like, you know, if you've never done that before, not to say that you can't learn how to do it, but as a paralegal, like, because I've paralegaled and done that so many times, by the time I got to my training contract, I was smashing my billing figures. You know, I had to bill, I think when I first started my training, I had to bill, I think about £60,000, and I billed like double that, but only because I knew how to, you know, if someone's calling me, I'm recording time straight away.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
time is money.
You know what I mean? And if someone's, you know, emailing me, just the shared time it took me just to read the email, I've recorded time and just respond, you know. So yeah, paralegal is fantastic. And again, with my training contract, I paralegaled for 6 months at that firm, and then they offered me a training contract. So you never know what opportunities can come, who you can meet, who you can network whilst paralegaling. So yeah, I think it's really, really, and it's like, why not? It's experience, and it will help you get your training contract if you're looking for one.
100%. I really couldn't agree more with everything that you said. 100% apply for training contracts while you're in uni, but if you don't get it, be excited about getting on that paralegal role as well, because you will learn so much about yourself, about, like you said, law firms as businesses, and also what you want out of a legal career. Like, I've worked in-house, I've worked in private practice, I've worked in a small firm. I worked at Links last year in disputes. So I've worked at a larger firm. I kind of know what it is I'm going to want out of my career, and I can make that decision accordingly. And if you go straight from uni into a law firm, you may not like it. And you may end up leaving the profession because you think that's what law is like in practice. And really and truly, it's what that law firm is like in practice. So
that is fantastic.
Yeah. Obviously, the goal is to qualify and get a training contract as soon as possible. But if you don't get it, be excited about everything else you're going to learn in your journey, because there is nothing wrong with being a paralegal. Honestly.
And that's the thing, just to add to what you said, like, as I said, I paralegaled in 3 different areas of law, well, 2 different areas of law before I finally got litigation. So don't be scared to apply for, you know, whatever that you might not be interested in. Just apply, just put yourself out there, get the experience, and then, you know, use that time until you move on to where you want to go. It's just so important, and you can, you know, save as well, make really good connections. And, you know, I feel like half the reason why I got my training contract is because I had really good firms under my belt that I'd paralegaled at. Yeah.
100%. Okay, guys, last question. I'm so sorry. There's like 10 questions.
Honestly, I really don't mind. Like, if people want to ask questions.
Are you sure?
Yeah, of course. I know the struggle, guys. I understand.
Next question. Knowing what you know now about law and the legal profession, what advice would you give your younger self? So we kind of covered what advice you would give to aspiring lawyers, but looking at your own journey, is there anything maybe that you would have done differently yourself?
That's such a good question. What would I have done differently?
For me, then, I'll give you a little time to think. Obviously, I'm about, actually, no, I have started my training. But in terms of what I would tell my younger self, it would be, do not ignore the feedback that you received. And it's so, so important that you don't do that, because otherwise you'll keep making the same mistakes. And it could be the smallest of things. Like, I knew right from uni that we need something called commercial awareness, but I didn't start properly developing it until 2019. I went to uni in 2014, well, 2011 to 2015. And I heard this in 2014, and I didn't do it for 5 years, or I didn't properly understand what that is for 5 years. Like, when you receive feedback, make sure that you are actively doing something about the feedback that you receive, because otherwise you are just wasting time, and we don't have time to waste. So that would be me.
I think as a whole, I probably wouldn't do many things differently, to be honest with you, because I feel like it had to go the way it went.
Oh, always. Yeah.
Where I am. Do you get what I mean? Like, I had to go through the hurdles of trying to be a solicitor today. The one thing I would say was, during my training contract, I worked under a very, very difficult partner, extremely difficult partner. And I wish I was able to deal with his criticism and his ways better. I wish at the time that I had a bit more control over my emotions, because, you know, there were outbursts on my part, you know, and then you dread going in the next day and you're embarrassed. So for anyone that is dealing with difficult people, all I'd say is, really, especially when your career's on the line, just you just don't ever respond out of emotion. Don't ever write that email out of emotion. Just don't do anything. Just take a day, take a minute and not respond, because there's people out there that just want to trick you and just want to see what you've got, you know?
How you react, yeah.
How you react. So I feel like, yeah, just take a moment and just relax and just say, you know what, and just always keep your eye on the prize and the bigger goal.
Yeah, no, I think that's such great advice. And I think I've used that advice in very professional and personal capacities, that sometimes you really do need to write out your feelings to get it out of your system. So if you need to, write it in your notes in your phone, or type it in an email and send the email to yourself, please. That way you feel like you've released all of your thoughts and your emotions and everything. Because sometimes you do need to get it out, like, we're human. But yeah, don't send it to the person intended, because once you send it, you can't take it back. There's 2 more questions, but they're both questions I've dealt with on my profile, guys. So one is tips for getting through law school. I've got a post on that. And there's another question about advice for preparing for training contract interviews. I've got a post, well, I've got a couple of posts, and I've got a couple of YouTube videos on that. So again, check my stories.
Oh, can I just add one thing?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
one thing that won my training course. So after I had my training contract interview, the thing that my partners that I was under, that they told me that won them over, was after I finished my interview, I sent them both an email. So I got their email from their websites, and I said, "Dare Beep and Beep, the partners, thank you so much for your time." I don't want to bait them up now, but I just said, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me and have a discussion. You've really reignited my interest in the firm and in this area of law, and I would love to be able to work with you.
Yeah.
Till this day, that was one thing that the partner that was the head of my department said, that is one of the things, because she said she finished the interview with me, went to get a coffee, went back to her desk, and that was the first thing she saw. And she said it was so nice, because no one ever does that. So that is definitely something you might want to try.
Amazing. Sure. No, I think that's such a good tip, because a lot of, even I was in a talk today with the firm, and there was a partner giving a presentation, and he made the comment right at the end of his presentation to be like, guys, if you ever want to talk, like, come and talk to me. Like, I like people to see me as a person, as a human, and not as a partner. Partners are people, and people like to feel, you know, they like to feel appreciated like everyone else. Then a little thank you email goes a long way. So I think that's great advice. Well, thank you for your time, girl. Way over the agreed slot I gave you. But I really appreciate it, and we really appreciate you sharing.
And thank you, Nadine. I feel like what you're doing is amazing. I'm so proud of you, like balancing this and your training contract. I know it's not easy, but I feel like this platform, a lot of young lawyers need this, you know, need the support. Like, you posted something the other day. Remember, I responded like, oh my God, I wish I'd seen this 5 years ago. So I feel like what you're doing is amazing. Just keep it up, definitely.
Thank you. No, honestly, like, it's a big thing, because even though my journey was difficult, I feel like I was privileged in the sense that I had the confidence to network with certain people and get the answers that are not always out there. So now that I'm in the position that I'm in, and I know the amount of people that I know in the profession, it's important to have them on a platform to share everything that they know as well. So I appreciate you for agreeing to jump on, and thank you so much, everyone who's stayed with us for an hour and a half.
I know, right? Appreciate y'all. You got this, everyone.
Yeah, honestly, keep going, because you're obviously determined to pursue law. So keep going, whatever your current journey looks like, you'll get there. Let me know if there's any other areas you're interested in. Thank you, me.
Thank you, darling. I appreciate you so much.
You too. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.